You're listening to the official podcast of Asbury University, produced by students with God-honoring conversations that inform, edify, and encourage. This is Asbury. We explore culture and current topics through a Christian worldview, promoting a well-balanced life, and we empower our community to belong, become, and be set apart. I'm your host, Abby Lobb. Welcome to This is Asbury. Welcome to This is Asbury, Kiki. Kiki Yee, please introduce yourself to our listeners.
My name is Kiki Yee. I graduated from Asbury in 2018 with a degree in recreation because adventure leadership was not a major yet. And then after that, I worked in several different states, Florida, North Carolina, Colorado, Kentucky, and Utah. In the outdoor rec field, doing things like working at climbing gyms, wilderness therapy, environmental ed, challenge coursework, and then ultimately back to Asbury in summer of 23.
That's amazing. And you replaced someone who was here for a long time, Trent Ellsworth. He was the director of the Adventure Leadership Program. So you are now the director of that program.
Yes, which is crazy.
And you kind of just you just jumped right in. So tell us a little bit about that program for people who might not know what that is.
Yeah, absolutely. So I jumped in as the assistant director in 23, became the director this past July. Mm-hmm. So the AEL program, the Adventure Education and Leadership, is our major and minor. So we have a major and minor that students can participate in, and you learn leadership skills, you learn technical skills, you learn all of those things. And then we also have the Kentucky Outdoor Institute, which is really a place where college students, as well as the general public, can come and we'll do trips and programs for them. So we'll do backpacking, we'll do climbing, canoeing, rappelling, challenge course stuff, team building things. And the wonderful thing about like the AEL program and the KOI program together is that the students who have gone through the AEL program help lead and guide those other participants through the KOI program.
Yeah,
which is really awesome.
Anything with the word outdoors in it, for me personally, is going to be a huge draw. But just talk a little bit, Kentucky Outdoor Institute. What's the objective, really, of KOI?
Yeah, absolutely. So the objective is really to get people more outdoors and also to have that experiential education, to grow in lots of different things. You can grow in communication, you can grow in leadership, and really it's all, we don't have like a set goal, like you need to learn these things. Everybody's going to learn a little bit differently. So part of what you learn in challenge course facilitation is that you're asking questions for the actual participants to give you those answers. Like, we believe that the answers are inside the participant. You just have to guide them with questions to reach that understanding. And there's a lot of reflection and debrief in there because an activity and an experience is wonderful. But if you don't actually reflect on that, then it's just an experience and it's not something that can really be built on as well, and doesn't have that, you don't get to build as much on it as you could. There's a lot more learning and growth that can be involved if you even just reflect on it for 5 minutes.
So you could come into one of these programs looking for team building or conflict resolution or personal growth or any number of things, but
Absolutely.
You use the tools of the outdoors
Yes.
to accomplish that. Do you have any stories to share about what that's like?
I have so many stories.
Tell us some of your favorites.
Let me see. I think one of my favorites, and it happens so often, is like getting a group of either students or participants from the community and taking them either rock climbing and rappelling. A lot of times we have at least 1 to 2 people who are terrified of heights.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We talk a lot about different comfort zones, the stretch zone, the stretch zone, and then the panic zone.
Ooh.
And talking about how if you want to grow and really live your life, you need to live more in the stretch zone and that growth zone. But we don't want to get you into the panic zone. So if there's anything that's you're actually actively freaking out, or in danger, obviously we're going to manage all those risks, but if you feel unsafe in any way, just let us know and we'll talk you through it.
Right.
But getting people to are terrified of it, and then they set their own goals and like, hey, we'll encourage you to do it. We do operate by something called challenge by choice. We're never going to force you to do it. We'll encourage you, and we'll walk with you through it. But getting people to even climb a little bit higher on a route. I've watched people's confidence kind of just go through the roof.
Yeah.
They like climb higher on a route than they ever thought they would, or they actually rappel off a cliff and they've never done that before and they're terrified. And the wonderful thing about that is that like self-confidence that you build can also be translated to life. It's not just like this climbing opportunity.
Yeah, well, and there's something to that. I wish I had some of the studies in front of me, but I read this book recently called The Comfort Crisis, and it's basically about how modern humans, we don't have enough risk in our life, basically. And Trent Ellsworth talked about this. We had a podcast with him a couple years ago where he talked about this a little bit, but specifically for kids too, for young people who, their brain is literally not fully developed. And if they don't have the chance to exercise, responsible risk taking, like they truly are missing out on a critical part of their development. It's as simple as, you mentioned maybe climbing a little higher, responsible risk, or if it's like, if you're a parent, okay, let your kids walk to the park by themselves, like things like that. There's things that we can practice where it's like, we're teaching people how to manage risk responsibly. Because can you imagine, going your whole life and not ever really experiencing that, like you're saying, the benefits of that? You're shaking your head. What are some of the things that you see when people are able to take that responsible risk?
Yeah, I think that a lot of it, like, it helps develop some of that self-confidence as well, and that problem solving. If you're never allowed to take risks, you don't fail as often. And failure is often seen as like a dirty word, and it's really not. Like, if you never experience failure, then you're never going to really know how to like get back up, and to be able to like take whatever you're doing a little bit further, and to be able to grow in that resilience. And resilience is really important. And I think we can see it in some of the students today, and just like the difference between like pre-COVID and post-COVID, and they're learning and different things, and like the problem-solving skills are not there as much because they've been a little bit more sheltered, or they weren't allowed to go out because
they
of the
were
pandemic.
told don't take any risk, or
right,
you might die of whatever,
For sure.
Like, that's an oversimplification, but that's kind of how it was for a couple of years for them. So, well, I love that. Well, there's risk taking, and then there's also just the simple fact of getting outside and the health benefits it offers, which was another thing that didn't happen as much. You're shaking your head again. During the COVID years, and even not the COVID years, just in the age of everything is an app, everything, we can tech everything, we can tech ourselves to death. So just why outside? why does that go hand in hand with what you're talking about with risk taking?
For sure. There's a lot of studies. I don't have like all of them pulled up right now, but I was honestly looking at one just the other day from the National Institute of Health that's talking about just like even being in green spaces, even if it's just like a park in the downtown city, helps reduce stress. It helps reduce your heart rate. It helps reduce blood pressure. All those things that are obviously really helpful.
Just
for
being in
people's
green
health.
space.
Yeah, just in green space. Like, it's not even talking about like in the middle of the woods where you can't see all of the modern day stuff that kind of clutters everything. But that has like health benefits, and just getting outside more. Like, I've seen it in my students, I've seen it in myself, and just like how it helps with the mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being of a person. Yeah.
We talk a lot about that in higher education circles, because naturally we work with students, and it's like, they're anxious, they're depressed, which, we all know is true to a large degree. So how do you see the outdoors as helping remedy this issue?
I think part of it is like a different sense of pace and place. So the field semester students, like the ones that just came back in the fall, they've consistently talked about like how it's a little bit harder to honestly like reintegrate into society,
culture shock when they come back.
Reverse culture shock, for sure, because they were at a place where they were like having to lean on each other, that like really small community, and like make food and like make sure that you had all of the gear and all the things that you need for like everyday life,
survival in the wilderness.
Yes. And when we were on our backpacking trip for 8 days in the Gila Wilderness in New Mexico, they didn't have their phones. I was
Wow.
like, you're not allowed to take them. We can
Wow.
have my phone on airplane mode
cool.
to take pictures, and that's it.
That's really cool.
But it was amazing the things that you're able to like see, and you're able to experience just like nature in a different way, and just like also slow down. You don't have that technological buzz that's always around you. The things that you're always supposed to be doing. You're out there. You're hiking. You're like experiencing nature. You're like walking through freezing river, and you actually like are feeling it. Like you're not comfortable.
Yeah.
And there's something about, like we were talking about taking risks earlier. There's something about like not always being comfortable, and there's nothing wrong with that. It again builds that sense of resilience.
Yeah, you're uncomfortable. You're very present in the moment. You're taking risk, but then you're also, having the sense of wonder of just observing what's around you, not just at a glance, not for the sake of posting it on your Instagram. You're just observing it. So can you talk about that? That you touched on this earlier before we started recording. Just that sense of wonder and what it does for us as humans, as Christians. Just talk about that a little bit if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. You can ask any of my students. I could go on about wonder for hours. But something that Trent had actually said to me as a student, had said multiple times, is there's so much wonder in creation, but thinking about when you see a cliff, God didn't have to make rocks climbable, but he did, which is so amazing.
That's
and
cool.
the people that like love climbing, like that's awesome. Also, like thinking about the fact that like God didn't have to make our food taste good. He didn't have to, and he did. And also, like he doesn't have to paint the skies with sunsets and sunrises every single day, but he did. And like stopping to actually appreciate his creation, it's always pointing back to the Creator. His creation's always pointing back to the Creator. And something that I've talked with my students a lot about is this sense of childlike wonder. And it's something that's often lost in our society because we're much more fast-paced. If you like even walk along a sidewalk with like a 2-year-old, like watching what they get interested in is
pick up
so
a little
cool.
stick and they just observe everything. Yeah,
And
they're
so
not on a phone or
absolutely, yeah. And so like something that I've tried to get my students to do in this past field semester group is like really, really dove into it. Is just like taking time to like stop and like pick up the rocks and like really look at that rock and look at a leaf. Like if you've ever looked like really intently at a leaf, like seeing how intricately it has been made is absolutely incredible.
It's gorgeous.
And like as Christians, like thinking about the fact that like the verse that says like, the lilies of the field are here today and they're gone tomorrow, like how much more does God care about you? And it's just incredible. And it's something that we're trying to really, really foster a sense of wonder and care for the creation, because God told us to take care of it. And how we do that in the midst of life and programs. And even if that's just like taking 5 minutes to just be outside and just to breathe in the outdoor air and just get away from everything else and just appreciate. And then that also goes back to gratitude. And there's studies about gratitude from like not even Christians, that they're realizing how important gratitude is in everyday life for like health benefits as well.
Yeah. You talked about that, even if you're, whether it's your job or life or just whatever, if you can't, be outside in nature for long periods of time, what are some just really practical ways you would encourage people to do that? And then I'll share one thing that I do.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So depending on like how much time you have, all the different things, like you could do something as simply as like parking further away and like walking a little bit further, which like it's not quite the same, but it's still something. But like implementing just like getting outside for 5 minutes. If you like, I live in Wilmore, so I can walk to work, which is awesome. Taking your dog for a walk if you love dogs, or if you have a friend who has a dog, like asking if you can borrow their dog.
Walk your dog, please.
Which like they will probably love. It gets their dog more exercise, it gets you outside. And I think honestly just like doing your phone calls outside if you can. Like I know we talked about a little bit earlier that like that is something that is so helpful for me. Like phone calls stress me out, but if I'm like outside and like can pace around some sort of green space, I'm going to have a much better conversation with someone than when I'm sitting in my office. So those are just like really, really small things. Obviously like going on a hike would be like my first thought.
Yeah.
But, if people can't do that.
And the Asbury trails are open again.
Yes,
so
they are.
There you go.
Yep.
You have no excuses now. Well, that's what I love to just sit outside. I joke that laptops are my favorite invention because if I have to work, I'm going to go outside on my laptop. And people see me all the time on my campus. I'm always like finding a spot where I can stand up, and the stew steps are a really good place to do that.
Oh, nice.
Or, it's like, well, depending on which way the sun is facing, like I'll be out there as long as possible that my computer's like, like, I'm hot. We need shade. So it just cracks me up. I'm like, okay, my computer's too hot. I got to go in. Or I can't see my screen. Darn it. So I'm going to move over here to the shade. It's just getting really, I felt really silly at first. Like, why is Abby sitting outside all the time? And now I'm like, okay, no, I have to now. I kind of crave it, but that's just a very practical thing. And fortunately, my job allows me to do that. And I really do feel for people who their work does not allow them to do that. That's got to be hard. But, everybody has a lunch break, or everybody has, there was this, this is a terrible joke, but like, smokers, like if smokers can go get a 15, like legally you're allowed to have like what is it, I don't know, a 15-minute smoke break like that, twice a day or whatever. It's like, okay, don't take up smoking, but go outside when the smokers go outside. This is a terrible thing for the Asbury podcast, but it's real. It's like, just take those times to go outside,
right?
But don't smoke while you're out there. What are some of your favorite activities, Kiki? Because you're the expert. You just went to New Zealand, you told me. Like, what do you like to do?
Yeah, my favorite thing is backpacking.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. And I recently got a dog in near Thanksgiving. And so trying to get him trained so he can come backpacking with me. But I love backpacking. I love being able to be out where you can't see any signs of civilization. Like, you don't see anybody else except your group. Yep. And you don't see any lights, because then at night, like, the stars are absolutely incredible. You can't hear any airplanes. You can't hear any motorized vehicles. That is just, to me, so beautiful and amazing. And then being able to, like, be out there and, like we talked about, like, that sense of wonder, just, like, sit there and not have phones or anything like that, to be able to really bask in God's creation and be able to thank him for everything that he's made.
Absolutely. I did this thing one time. I wrote about it a few years ago, but it's called forest bathing. And the whole idea is that getting into trees, and you touched on this a little bit, just green space, but trees specifically release a chemical called phytoncide, I think. But it's actually been proven to increase human health, whether that's by reducing stress hormones or some other, determinants of health. But they studied it in Japan and a few other countries, basically just going into the forest for like an hour. But when I did it, she led us through kind of like, okay, like you said before, okay, look at the leaves, look at the bark, but actually look at it and just focus on it. And, you could be praying, you could be taking a nap, like whatever you're doing, it doesn't matter. But like, you're just letting your mind be calm, and how often do we just let our minds be calm and sit and observe nature? Like, not very often, So I just think that's something to really think about, if you can create those spaces. And I did. I think we were out there for an hour. I remember at the end, I was like, there's no way an hour just went by. It felt so much faster. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to be so bored. This is going to be the most boring hour of my life. But I'm kind of a high-strung person, so for me, that's really hard to do. But once I did it, I thought, oh my gosh, I need more of this in my life. So I think even just that simple fact, getting outside in some green space, in some trees, breathe in the phytoncides, and you can look this up. I'm not crazy. It really does help calm you down and reduce stress. And I just think all of us in 2025, we're always connected. We're always getting a alert on our phone. We're always getting a text. We're always getting a call. We're always like, next. It's a problem. It's a cultural thing. So we just have to find ways to step out of that as much as we can, I think. And I love that you're teaching students to do that when they're young, because what an important lesson to learn when you're in college to take into adulthood with you. So what kind of changes do you see in these students? You know, you mentioned when they come back, you said earlier, like they kind of culture shock a little bit. Is there anything else that you would share that you see in them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if I could just like boil it down to one word, I just see growth. Whether it's in like the field semester students who I'm with for lots of time, and like day in, day out, 24/7 for a while, or even people who just come to the challenge course for like a half a day program. If people are open to learning and growing, they can. So like it's different for every person. We've talked about some of the self-esteem stuff that kind of can improve. Also communication, just being able to communicate and to work through conflict in a way that's like, you know, you're not yelling at people.
Right.
Working through conflict in like a godly way is really awesome. And conflict is another one of those, similar to failure, that like has a negative connotation. And conflict isn't bad. And so like learning how to do that. And we also talk a lot in our program now about just like how to express emotions in a healthy way. And so can see growth through that, through a whole host of different things, and watching, being able to like walk alongside students as they grow is just such a privilege and an honor. And being able to like look at some of our field semester students and see where they were like when I first had a class with them last spring to where they are now, to how much more confident they are, even just like in hard skills, but also like in their classes now, and like much more open to like making new friends and like taking new risks and new challenges. And it's just really cool to see and be able to be a part of that as well.
Getting uncomfortable and embracing that. So just in closing, Kiki, so I know, you know, you have students who are in the major, who are in the program, but then you guys also lead Archways, right?
Yes.
So I think every student can do Archways. Is that correct?
Yes.
When they come to Asbury? So is it some of those similar principles?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Archways is our pre-orientation adventure trip. And we do a lot of different things, but we don't like to tell you exactly what we do because part of adventure is not knowing what's happening next, which is awesome. But we have 36 spots for incoming freshmen and transfers, and you get to be put with a group, meet a lot of different people, do some really awesome things. You might go backpacking, you might go rappelling, you might go climbing. You're definitely going to get to have a fire under the stars, and you get to sleeping in hammocks usually.
Awesome.
Yeah, hammocks usually. You get to build that awesome community even before you come. So something that Trent always said is like, and we've really seen it in a bunch of Archway students, like you can tell who like the new freshmen are like the first week of campus because everybody's like more awkward and different things. But the Archways kids, like they are like cutting it up. They're laughing. They're so much more comfortable because they've already met these like, 30 other students and had this amazing experience out in nature, and then they're coming back. And I really fully believe that Archways is the best way to start your college experience. I went on Archways as a student in 2014, and that was the first time I'd been backpacking, and now I have over 370 days of backpacking.
Wow. When you came to Asbury, did you know that's what you were going to study?
I was minoring in it and actually was a MediaComm major,
Okay.
funnily enough.
Wow.
And then after I went on Archways, I bumped adventure leadership, which was recreation with an adventure leadership emphasis, up to a major, and then eventually dropped MediaComm when I was on the field.
So that kind of changed the whole trajectory of it, and now you've made a career out of it. How cool is that?
Which is crazy.
Wow, that's really cool, Kiki. I love that. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Florida, from St. Augustine, Florida.
Okay, awesome. So you're a beach girl. That's great. I love it. Well, anything else in closing that you'd like to add for our listeners?
I just wanted to say, like, get outside. It's really, really awesome. We have different opportunities coming up, but we would love to see you on some program, whether it's just a canoeing trip or anything. And I really appreciate you having me on here today.
That's great. And I'm just going to throw in a plug. So, Kiki, I think phase 2 of your program is you need to develop something for faculty and staff.
Oh, yes.
There you go.
Yes.
I'm going to put that on the podcast. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of This is Asbury. To learn more about Asbury University, visit asbury.edu.